trying to build up a platform to make money off of.
What's your platform?
Whatever the people think.
What's it called?
It's called The
brand?
Platform, capital T, capital P. It's an amorphous and ever-changing. You're not
TP?
right now.
So,
Yeah, TP. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
like toilet paper.
Yeah, because it's it's really like everybody can use it, and
Right. Everybody does.
you like don't think about it until you run out, and then you're like, oh shit, I need this. It's like you need the platform.
We're just getting warmed up.
If you get into some shit, you're gonna want your TP with you.
That's right.
Yeah, you're not gonna want to just.
I'm still not clear on what are you providing for people? What is the service that you provide?
I provide both a sense of consistency in how the world works, so people feel like there's some order to things, and also I provide what feels like a voice of like righteous reason, so that people feel like there's someone out there who's doing the good work and bringing the truth forward and calling out people that are doing the wrong thing.
But you say you're not a politician.
No, I'm not a politician.
How would you
I'm a
describe
grifter.
yourself?
So yeah, basically what I say is gonna shift based on like how I feel like my audience is feeling at a given time.
Gotcha.
Everything I say is very like emphatic and moral, and I sound like it's coming from the heart.
Yeah.
But
I want to get into
it's
the
carefully calculated. Yeah.
I want to get into the moral thing. I know that's
yeah.
a big it's a big aspect to your whole thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, what how do morals play into your whole grifter guise?
Okay. So are we actually starting? Because I want to cut the fan and ask them to shut up and let the cat in first. We're gonna do that, 'cause sorry.
Answer the question.
I was just give me a second. All right.
So,
Y'all, potential solutions if you don't want to sit here in silence and listen. Hi.
how's it going?
Hi. It's going great. Thanks for having me on the show. It's a huge honor.
Of course.
Yeah, like really, it's a huge honor.
We've known each other for a long time.
Yeah, like one or two
nights.
Yeah.
And I just want to take this opportunity to get to know you a little better.
Yeah.
And so, yeah. What's your name?
That's really constantly in flux. I've gone by many titles. When I was in high school, I thought of myself as an alter ego called Christopher Claus, which has been my online pen name for a while. People actually think my name online is Chris now, and they kind of think that I'm a little sketchy when they find out I'm just lying about it.
A pen name.
Yeah, pen name perhaps, but I kind of it was a bit of a narcissistic alter ego, and maybe not narcissistic. It was like a power fantasy of Santa Claus themed superhero of sorts. I hated the term superhero. I felt like superheroes were lame, but it was basically a superhero.
Well, so this plays right into what I was kind of writing about a little bit, in that you I would say, maybe you agree with this. I don't know, you're a self-stylized writer. You're a writer.
Yeah, I do love to write.
You enjoy writing.
It is an ambition to one day have many published novels. Right now, that is not the case. So I try not to talk about it that much because I feel like there's few things more obnoxious than somebody's like, I'm a writer, and then they just durdle around their laptop and could be good, could be total shit.
Right. Well, that's kind of the whole point of this whole interview series. To me, is we get the Joe Schmo, the rather than interview the big names, Kanye West or Pablo Picasso. Or
who you could be interviewing,
Right.
Yeah, like if you wanted to interview Pablo, he'd be there. But everyone's heard that story.
So that's exactly my point.
Yeah.
Is that it's the untalented, unwashed masses that we're bringing to the forefront of the discussion that collectively we've had as Americans.
Yeah, I feel what you're saying. Yeah, it's like I'm a river rock, and if you like polish me down, like I might be a precious gemstone, but probably I'm not. I'm probably just like a regular rock.
Or like a troglodyte.
Yeah. Troglodyte's a pretty good comparison too. Interesting, just like I'm pretty interesting. But like not in the way where you're like, well, I mean like maybe like interesting in the way that like you might look at like a moldy banana and be like, well, that's kind of interesting that it turned out that way. Like it's more interesting than a regular banana, right?
I think of you as a relatively interesting person for sure.
Yeah, compared to other non-people. Yeah. So you were asking about morals before. Morality? Is that something that you were concerned about?
Hey, I'm in charge of this interview here.
Yeah. Never mind. I don't have
it. We're going by. I got notes. Mm-hmm. I'm going to be the one who's talking for 80 to 90% of the interview. So let me ask you something. How does writing start for you? Does it start with an idea, a character, perhaps? A plot line? How does could you walk us through how you tend to begin a piece of writing?
So I usually start with a feeling. I have an emotion that I want to capture, and I find that usually comes from another piece of fiction. I'll read something, I'll watch something, I'll get a feeling from it, and I'll be like, ooh, I like that. I like the emotions it's giving me, and I'll try and pick apart, like, where is that feeling coming from, Like, if I feel like, sometimes it's like a cozy feeling, It's like, ooh, you managed to, like, capture an ambiance that I want to put into a story, or sometimes it's like it's a character, and the feelings I have towards a character. But when I start planning a story, I'm trying to figure out how to capture that feeling. Mm-hmm. that I felt in something that's really the rock polishing metaphor actually works here, where it's kind of like I feel this uncut emotion, and I'm like I want to hone this feeling. How do I do that? I have to make my own thing, because I'm not gonna just like go out and find it. I gotta craft something around it.
Right.
Yeah.
Are you cut?
I mean, I cut, I cut people a good deal, but I'm pretty just smooth down the front, like a plastic doll.
I was listening to Eminem earlier, and he's always talking about cutting people up.
Yeah, I like the red one the best. Yeah.
Which one's that? It's not Encore. It's the
red Eminem.
Dead Air. Okay, that's our nemesis here. That's
I like a good nemesis. I like an imaginary one, because none of it actually like cares.
If we had a live audience, then maybe there would have been something to fill that space.
I mean, in order to have like a real nemesis, like someone has to care about your existence, right? So like we kind of make up ones from the shadows, like Dead Air.
Right. Well, that's what you do. You create characters out of the shadows. Which you then abstract in certain ways, or you think of them in abstract ways. Mm-hmm. This is my read. And I wanted to kind of ask you about that. Here, I'll just read the question. So is so you mythologize some of the characters you create.
Yes.
Some of the characters occupy abstract or symbolic roles in your own private pantheon.
Yes. I understand that like good writers do this too, where they kind of like partition out perhaps parts of their psyche to their characters, or maybe they just feel like people that they talk to. But I got one character, which is the character that tells me not to drink alcohol. It's an important one. I have one character I was talking to my other, acquaintances, I guess, today. Mm-hmm. Some say friends. About one of them's my brother, so I guess.
Should we have them introduce themselves?
Yeah. Maybe we should get them in the loop here. So yeah, go ahead. Introduce yourself, Theo.
You gotta speak up.
Yeah.
I'm Theo.
Yeah, it's Theo.
It's me.
He goes by Theocles because that's his legal birth name for some reason.
It's true.
Yeah.
It's a true fact. Just hanging out. Got a cat sitting next to me. Mm-hmm. It's a good time.
Yeah. He's wearing sunglasses, but
we call him Miles Davis
We just watched Palm Springs.
I call him Loser.
I'm channeling my inner Niles.
Ah, okay. Yeah. And then we have another person here.
Calais.
Yeah.
I sometimes slip into
What?
That's offensive. You can't do that. Yeah.
You're just lying about
No, it's not like from anything. It's just hurtful.
And I didn't tell you guys this entire time.
Yeah, she's really. I mean, it's a known phenomenon.
An Australian from the UK.
Yeah.
Slightly Australian.
Yeah. Could you speak some Australian to us, please? I'm not fluent.
You're like Trevor.
Yeah.
Only for tips.
I also like just the tip. Yeah.
Not what
We'll censor that.
Yeah, but I was talking to them, and I was saying, I've got a character that's kind of like my end life goal, or like I came up with her, and I was like, hi, like how's it going, basically, because she kind of manifested in my head, and she was kind of like, wow, you're kind of a loser, which I kind of liked, because I was like, this character's real enough that they don't like me, which is like what most people do. And then at a certain point, I became aware of the fact that I like didn't have like the life experience or like writing talent to write this character, which is true for most characters, but especially this one. And I was like, well, I need to do this eventually, but I'll come back to you, And she was like, yeah, you better. So that's kind of like a driving, motivating force of a character. Right? Like that character makes me feel like I eventually have to get to that point to write that character.
Well, let's back up. Who is this? Who is this character? What's her name?
Her name's Marielle, and I had a painting of her actually. It's on the kitchen wall, which is the closest I've got to capturing her. And I think that what's interesting about her is that we basically like have nothing in common. Like everything that I care about, like she doesn't really give a shit about. Like she's a very like high concept individual, and in the sense that like she doesn't think about the world in terms of the day-to-day on the small scale. Like she's got a very revolutionary mindset, and it's unlike our grifter friends. It's authentic, and it's like the core part of her persona. And the other core part of her of her identity is the fact that like the beginning of like she starts out as like a very pathetic, very like incompetent and incapable individual, the kind of like person that you would just kind of like write off like as a side character.
This is on your first impression you're talking about?
Yes, first impression of her. That's why I came up with a character that was just like really demoralizing to look at, And the reader views her with a sense of like this character can't possibly matter. It's a background character that's meant to make a point, right? And because you encounter a lot of those characters in fiction, just a character that they're introduced, and you can tell from the first moments like this character's not like truly important, They're a role player. Mm-hmm. And I was like, what if that role player, that like background nobody, like changed enough that they became like the centerpiece, And that was the emotion, that was the feeling.
So she starts out as in particular story. She starts out as a kind of side character, or like a peripheral character.
Exactly.
And within a process within her own psyche changes her. She goes through changes herself.
Yes.
That make her into a more authentic force or symbol or just being.
Yeah, I kind of want it to be like a gradual process where it's like happening in the background almost, and then eventually like you get this realization. And I'm sorry actually, because I have to admit that the story, the setting that she's always been placed in is a setting that might be familiar to you, which is Angora. And I'm not sure, I'm not always married to ideas. The character's what's important, but she's always existed in a small town in Angora, which I know you know about because you.
Well, maybe we should. Maybe we need to explain to the folks back home.
Probably do, yeah.
Who,
AKA everybody ever on the face of this planet. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not Andorra.
So this is not Andorra. It's a small country between.
Spain and France.
There it is.
What? No, I thought we were talking about Angora. Rabbits.
You're right.
Angora rabbits, like the big fluffy rabbits.
Are they from Andorra though?
No, they're Angora.
Oh, where is that?
I don't know. They're just called Angora.
Is it
I don't
even
even know it's a place.
Is it a place or just the name of it? Or rather,
We'll
I'm
cut
just gonna
all
take that
everything that
Finnish-
Theo says. We'll
The
cut
Finnish
out.
rabbits.
No, just kidding.
Yeah.
But anyway, we could introduce what this fantasy place is.
yeah. I think
We want to.
If you would like to. I mean, I feel like this.
Yeah. So this is a fantastical setting, which is like it's in Turkey, and it's almost like it's in Turkey. It's almost like it's Istanbul or something like that. It's got, to my mind, it's like a utopian or like magical place of
Just like Turkey, yeah.
just like Turkey.
Nothing bad happens there.
It's a kind of
Everyone's welcome.
Yeah, it's a kind of Oriental wonderland, you know.
I wouldn't.
Or
I mean, it's.
you wouldn't say that?
I would say that it is a mishmash, a hodgepodge, perhaps, which is what makes it beautiful. I mean, like, this is a place that, first of all, the climate, you know, we're talking like North to South Pole, kind of. You got snow at the tips, if I remember the map correctly, you know, kind of a wintry, like, you know, more like Russian Empire up at the top, right? Because you've got. You got the Krill of the Hun, who, you know, we're assuming is a very distinct feature. But there's a lot of good ideas in this place. This is something that for our listeners we created together in I believe it started in first grade. So you have to understand that, first of all, there's a lot of ideas that are poured into this that are just like directly taken from somewhere else. You know, like I think there's like a white dragon of lightning and a black dragon of fire, and that's just from Yu-Gi-Oh. Those are just Blue Eyes White Dragon and Red Eyes Black Dragon. I'm sorry. But then there's also some really good ideas here that we did actually come up with, you know, like and this might actually sound ridiculous saying it loud, but I promise it's amazing. A giant click beetle with the wings of a lunamoth that breathes lava, you know, and
beams of energy, you know, that have nuclear capability, that kind of thing.
Exactly, and it's a dark entity. It's called Lunaclick,
this is, and we're laying it all out. Angora is one word for like this place, but I also think of Angora as a city in the landmass that on the map, the world map of this place, which is just another world, another theoretical or fantastical world.
Yeah, it's kind of like how the capital of France is France. You know, it's like.
Explain that.
So you were saying about the world. It's like a teardrop shape, right? No. It's like pointed at both.
Paris is shaped like a snail shell.
Paris is like Pokemon.
Right. It's Paris, but
no, it's pronounced Paris, right?
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's kind of shaped like an egg, like a skate's egg case.
Yes, that's exactly what it is.
That's what the world map is shaped like.
Which is fitting because one of the gods is a giant, like half stingray, half horseshoe crab being that lives in the oceans, and you might be able to guess what it's called actually based off of Lunaclick.
Based off of our first grade.
It's called Horseshoe Ray. You can tell which names I came up with and which ones our host here came up with, because his are like, he came up with like Ishgomon, which is like actually like a good name, you know. I mean, it's better than Horseshoe Ray. Horseshoe Ray is just because of. No, it's not. What are you? Okay. All ears on him. What is a horseshoe ray? Tell us.
Isn't that just like a real animal?
No, it's a horseshoe crab is a real animal, and a manta ray is a real animal, and we stuck them together.
Okay,
right?
maybe I've watched too much Avatar, where they also use the metric.
Is there a horseshoe ray in Avatar?
Two things together.
Does that exist in Avatar?
In fucking years.
Trying to tell me that horseshoe ray is a real animal? Oh, no.
I'm gonna Google it.
It is a feature of my imagination.
It's a totally original idea.
Totally original, yeah, exactly.
All credit.
And then we had entire ecosystems. We had the dark forest, which was full of like a variety.
Yeah, we'll include a map with this. And
Yeah.
Horseshoe ray, the only living members of the order Xephosura. They're a mixture of a horseshoe crab, and smaller rays. Not a manta ray.
You're just making this up.
No, I'm not.
Show it to me.
Like right there, Xephosura. The only living members of that order.
This just says how much is horseshoe crab blood worth. So
No. It's right there.
I don't know what the hell your Google search history is like, but at least I'm not Googling how to extract the blood of horseshoe crabs. I'm sorry about that.
Horseshoe rays.
Honestly, they kind of just snuck in here.
Oh, it's why don't we take a quick break?
Yeah.
Should we?
Yeah, we could.
And we're back.
We're back.
We've got a good video for the ad.
Okay. Yeah, you could put it. Okay, mate. Oh, okay. Well, I don't want to get that ad break right now. Now that we're back, which makes sense.
Why don't
The
we
order
put it
should
into
do those things. Yeah. That's a picture. Oh.
It's a cat.
Did you record me just talking over this cat closing her eyes? Like, I'm just closing my soul here.
That was just a bonus.
God, can't listen to myself.
You are hurting us.
Sponsored by. You can monetize this thing.
I'm sure we'll have thousands of viewers.
Yeah, that's
hundreds of viewers.
I mean, after that, I feel like that was the hook moment.
We'll have tens of viewers.
Okay, and we're back.
You can't say and we're back.
We're the
That's his
production.
job.
We're the production team.
I mean, but that was nothing happened before I said that. It was just blank space.
We're working overtime to make this whole.
And we're back.
Float.
Sorry, we're just gonna keep saying that until we hit a, and we're back.
And
All
we're
right,
back.
so-
No dead air, please.
Okay, all right. Next question.
Fuck you, San Francisco.
Okay, so
And we're back.
we're back.
Okay.
So let's talk about the real name of this foreign utopia that we imagined. This alien world that we created a long time ago in first grade. We call it Double Click.
Oh,
Which
yes.
sounds like a internet come on.
Oh my
but,
god. Yeah, I remember getting so many questions. We said we're starting a thing called Double Click, and people were like, "Is it a computer club?" And we'd be like, "Why would you think that?" And they'd be like, "Because it's the only thing that makes any sense."
Yep.
But no, it was. See, you have jogged my memory, and I like doing this because it like forces my mind to remember things. But you're right. The city was named Angora. At some point, in my story planning, transformed it into the name of the continent, because I looked at the name Double Click and I said that's unusable.
Right, and that's because it's totally weird, and
which might make it better. I feel like the more that I've learned about stories, the more I'm like, if it is nothing like what you'd expect, it's probably got more value than you think.
I think we should call the podcast Double Click. We'll put an exclamation point on the end of it.
Yeah.
So people will think,
Yeah, you should. Yeah.
It's an ad.
Yeah.
Like an advertisement.
Yeah, you can even have it have little ad, put in a little ad tag next to it, even though it's not an ad. Just tag it like an ad.
Right. We can make it come up with the little skip bar.
Yeah,
on the thing, so that people think that it's a skip thing, but it just makes them click on the video instead.
And we can make it so they click on it, it just fills their computer with viruses. So
right.
Yeah.
You know all about that.
Not because it benefits us in any way. Just I do. I do know. Yeah.
So what's the point of? I'm glad that I'm glad that you continued with like staging things in this place, like stories in this place in your way that you write words and stuff like that.
I did do that kind of, but it's kind of like it's one of those things where it's meaningful enough that I kind of pushed it to the future in a sense of like, I'm not gonna write something with like significant value from my childhood for real until like I feel like I can do it well. Mm-hmm. So we beat around the bush, per se. Like I'm writing a fantasy story right now, but it's not set in Ingor. It's just in a totally different place. So a new world that I created that has nothing to do with it.
So. Can I hit that?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Ow. Thanks, man. That felt good. Can you hit it again? Oh yeah. Yeah, that felt good. One more time. Just a nice big... Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Hell yeah.
That was good, yeah. Thank you. Feeling refreshed.
Me too.
I purr like a cat.
I even wrote down double click on the...
Oh, really? That's sick. List. Okay, yeah. It's organic, It's inevitable, perhaps.
Yeah. So I guess, how did...
We're in the middle of that, very close to the cards.
What are you playing?
Yes.
Wow. What do your elf ears see? For those that can't see her right now, Callie is currently tucking playing cards behind her ears. There seems to be a little purpose to this, but I'll let her explain it to us if she'd like.
It's a good play, honestly, given the circumstances. I know it might seem a little weird if you didn't watch the flow of the game, but I think in these circumstances, that is the kind of film you want to make.
Okay.
Well, to see the whole gold.
Yeah, I put her in a tough spot with a straight.
Hey, Kelly, what city are you from? In, Australia. In Australia. You're from Segovia, which is... Segovia, the magic realm.
Are you gonna eat the wines?
I call it no.
Kelly, name one person you're friends with in Australia.
Arthur.
Like the guy from the aardvark.
The armadillo.
The aardvark. All right, so you live in Segovia and you're friends with Arthur the aardvark.
Is Segovia like the tiny one?
Hey, Kelly, can you name one politician from Australia?
Segovia,
Segovia, the name of the place you're from, and the politician that was in charge of that place.
Krispy Kreme is on there. Everybody loves them. Voting is always unanimous.
But that sounds like
a great leader.
That doesn't sound like a democracy.
Every day is a holiday.
That doesn't sound like a
Everything is
democracy
awesome. Everything is cool when you're part of a team.
Just like our freedom.
Oh, Pantheon's the pentagram.
Pantheon? Should play World League of Legends. You would have sorted that one out. Everything is awesome. That also has Andy Samberg.
I don't know why.
It does, yeah. Is that the one where he does cocaine?
Yeah.
Everything is
Oh my god, he's so good.
Excuse me. Let's watch that video.
And I don't know why. Tom! Just his friends. Did somebody draw that?
I drew that one in India. Second grade. Second grade, I sketched it out. These you get to buy something. There is an artist that does it.
see Sam loves music videos where he gets shut down by famous people.
He does
Like
love
Jack
that.
Johnson, he has a street
And
fight.
we're
T-Pain.
back.
The Melamint. What's he think?
I'm on a
Sponsored by High Noon.
Sponsored by High Noon.
Yeah.
High Noon.
They
High
did.
Noon.
They actually did. They don't pay us. We're just.
It's High Noon.
We are just
If you say it
hoping
enough
that
times,
one day they
might.
will.
If you say it enough times, they might do it.
Manifest.
Yeah. Manifest destiny.
High Noon. It's the time of your death.
100 calories, gluten-free, no added sugar.
Finally.
Use responsibly.
And we're
So-
back.
And we're back. So, what should we talk about?
See that anyone will leave.
The question is, what do you want to talk about?
Well, I kind of want to. I want to talk about you.
Okay.
And since I am interviewing you,
Yeah. Yeah.
and but we were kind of talking about. We were talking about our share. Shut up. Blah, blah, blah.
Wait, can
Me
we just do a
talking.
quick roll refresher?
No. None of us have roles
Hey,
except for
my
you.
voice counts too. Don't try to shut me down.
I had a roll a couple days ago with egg and cheese on it.
Okay. You wanted to talk about what?
What did I want to talk about?
See, this is really hard because we've got like it feels like we've handicapped ourselves. It feels like we've like started this process with like
We're
you know,
just sitting here and laughing.
ankle
like all the
weights, like-
time.
The live trolls.
maybe you are.
That's fair.
Okay.
We're just playing a harmless game of poker.
Shake it
So-
up. Start again.
Right.
Yeah.
In this game that we know the rules.
So,
With 100%
like,
of the rules.
okay, so what's your new book? What's your plug?
Yeah,
What are you working on right now?
I'm working on a book. It's called the Catastrophe Creator. It's part of a series trilogy. I'm a big believer in like planning a series out to its conclusion first, because like you don't want the disappointment of like you get to book 3 and you're like, this author doesn't know what they're doing. So, ending in mind, it's a fantasy story. It's kind of modeled after, I'd say, the most inspiration is taken from House of Castle, both in terms of like tone, of like I want a clever fantasy story where the magic system is that there's not as much of a system, is more like magic is like this inscrutable force that just kind of happens, and we don't worry too much about like the mathematical processes,
Right, how it
modeled
works.
after that. Yeah, modeled after a system of magic that is scientific enough becomes just a form of science, right? That is defined enough, which is
Right.
someone wise said that in different words to make more sense. But I want that feel of kind of like, I guess like witch stirring a pot magic, where they put ingredients in and stuff happens, and the point is what it does and not like how it's done.
Right. So what kind of how does it work?
Yeah, so the idea is that it's a world where there is magic that is distributed very unevenly. There are certain people that are born with a lot of it, and most people are not. And a symptom of that is that everyone who does not have any magic has nightmares every night. And those who do have magic don't, which is kind of just part of the status quo for them. But it follows a girl named Kaylin who is non-magical. I wanted to see if I could create a fantasy story with a lead that doesn't have any exceptional abilities. I feel like we see a lot of fantasy stories where the main character discovers that they're special in some way. Whether it be Percy Jackson discovering that he's the son of Poseidon, or Harry Potter discovering that he's the son of a witch and a wizard, or any number of other popular fantasy stories where the main character discovers that they are in some way an important and powerful figure in this world. I was like, what if this protagonist has nothing? They're just a person, and they are on kind of the outside of all of this. And the way they get dragged into it is that they encounter a sorceress whose name is Fori, which is short for Xenophoria. And she is kind of like a whirlwind figure.
What does xenophoria mean?
The roots mean love of the foreign, right? Love of things that are xeno being foreign and phoria being, or 4 being love.
Gotcha.
Basically implying that her character is a fan of everything that is out there and strange and erratic. And that's what she is. She is a very erratic figure. She's also somewhat villainous. She meets the main character by kidnapping and blackmailing her into helping her to like complete a fetch quest where she's trying to find the pieces of this mirror that she doesn't know what they do, but she's basically just curious about it. She enlists the main character's help in this process basically because she's gullible and was there. And the main character and her are basically in this dance where Kaylin, the main character, is trying to figure out how to just get away from her, but can't because she has put a curse on her that means that if she tries to like ever defy her, then she gets her soul gets trapped in a book. And so she's trying to figure out how to basically secretly break this curse so that she can get away from the sorceress without letting on to that fact, because the sorceress will do something about it. But in the meantime, the sorceress is dragging her to all sorts of absurd locations to get her to just like help her do whatever, dirty work needs to be done. That's just the part 1, the premise, but that's the basic place from the beginning.
Have you ever read The Magus? Or The Magus? I don't know how to pronounce it.
The Magus?
It's Magus. It's a book called The Magus. That's how I see it. And it's...
The Gift of the Magi, a classic Christmas tale.
Yeah, it's a psychosexual tale of...
yeah, I was thinking magic cards, so...
Yeah.
Of drama and magic. And... it involves basically throughout the story there's this guy and he has a mansion in Greece and the main character meets this guy who's the Magus and it's as though he's taking him on this journey through his own life and his own in a kind of mystical experience, but there's always this question of like, is it real? Like, is it really happening, or is it magic, or is it just he's very into the theater and into the choreography of like basically fooling this guy. But you never really learn,
which is how it should be.
How it works. What happens. It's as if he's just an eccentric billionaire. But I like that. Hopefully I don't like. You should read it. Even though I. Hopefully I didn't ruin it. But it's very. It's interesting. And I wonder how you would think about it if you were to read it, like in terms of that, the element of the supernatural, the kind of beyond the limits of our everyday understanding of what's real. So that can exist in art, but Do you feel like it's a question of having a space to create that kind of other, or like irrational, or like not like not real space in order to break those boundaries in a way?
For sure. I definitely like that's my favorite part of fiction. Like, people enjoy fiction for different reasons, and I think
kind of a broad question.
No, I mean the question of like is like fiction about pushing what's real, to the edge and seeing when we can go past that, right? And for me, like, it doesn't have to be, obviously. Like, I've read some great books that are just, fiction stories that are trying to capture a specific lived experience, right? But I find that like most what we would call like grounded fiction, just fiction stories about people living in the world as we perceive and understand it, still embellish in a way to like see if we can create a narrative out of something that might not necessarily have a narrative to it, because we like to make narratives out of our lives, and that in itself I think is a form of like embracing the unreal, right? Because in reality there are no narratives, right? Like, the universe is not structured in the form of stories. It is just stuff happening randomly. We create narratives out of the things we experience. And so by doing that and by interpreting like anything that's real as a story, you're already fictionalizing it. I personally like take it a step further, and I do like that, like, hey, what if we bend what we see as possible and just create something new? Because that's something that for me, it's like, you can do that in stories in a way that you just can't in real life, right? Like, I can create a narrative out of my life, but I can't like pretend that magic's happening. And at the end of the day, like, I see magic and fantasy in stories as fun. That's what it should be. It should be fun, It's like, hey, let's just play with some ideas, and you use the fact that we can do literally anything we want when we're writing and see what we can do,
Are you the write sober, edit sober type?
Write sober, edit sober. How do I write best? I really don't. Yeah, I don't touch writing when I'm in any altered state of mind usually, because I just find that it's shit. Sorry, I'm over cutting profanity. It's bad. It's real bad. It's like I can get ideas if I if I'm high. I can get some great ideas, and I can really connect with those emotions that I talked about before that I'm trying to get into my story. But when it comes to putting words on the page, I mean, I write best first thing in the morning, wake up at 7 a.m. and just like get some coffee, which I guess that counts as not being sober, and just write until like dehydration and hunger kick in. That's when the best stuff comes out.
So do you feel there's a difference between that kind of like a kind of inspired writing and editing? Like, inspired as in that's what people would say when they're writing drunk, they're just writing, and then or that's what Hemingway said was write drunk, edit sober, and the difference between those two, I don't know if it's important, but do you see a difference between or rather, like, just take us through, like, how does your writing process, what is it like?
Yeah, so it's evolved a lot. I've realized that there's kind of like several key stages to it. The first one is that feeling your idea, and I think that a big challenge for me is like I latch onto that feeling, and for this one, like for this particular story that I'm trying to tell, like there's a couple key emotions that I want like in there. I want a sense of like zany fun, a sense of like a chaotic adventure story, right? I like that feeling. I want a feeling. I want a feeling of something. A character of I want a character that you can really peel back the layers on, right? That's not just like there's a surface level and then there's a level underneath, but like you can just really keep going down, right? Mm-hmm. A character that's constructed from the beginning to really like rewards you to get to know better and better, and that you understand better and better. And I think that like sometimes it can be hard when I'm planning to keep a clear view of that, because there's so much that goes into planning after that, right? Because then you're like, okay, I got the heart of my story, these feelings I want the reader to feel, right? Mm-hmm. I want them to feel like they know this person, and I want them to feel like they're invested in the relationships between these characters, and I want them to feel like they're having like a fun, wild adventure, right? But then you have to write something that makes sense, right? You have to write something that is propulsive, that has mystery to it, that has questions that demand answering. And as you start fiddling with all the pieces of that, sometimes like you can lose track of it. So what I've done with this story is that I came up with ideas. First, I just outline everything, and I have an ongoing like document that is just like every time that I have any thought, I just like write it down in the document. Any change I make, any like brainstorm, and I go back and look at it, and tons of it I just never end up I changed or I don't use anymore. But like it just keeps me. It's not even that I even go back and like need to look at it. It's by writing it down, I just kind of solidify it in my head, and it's part of the working process. And then I wrote a first draft, so I wrote the whole thing through, and that was kind of the like, I'm writing with a purpose that I want to capture this feeling, but I'm still figuring out like all the story kinks and pieces. And when I wrote that, I was still editing that draft as I wrote. So I would like write, and then I go back and edit it, and then I'd write more, and I'd edit the more that I wrote. And then I finished that, and I reached a point where I was like, okay, cool, now I need a second draft, right? And to write a second draft, like now that I understand both the story and the characters, I'm just going to start from the beginning, right? And sometimes I will like write a section, and I'll be like, that's great. And sometimes I'll write it, and I'll step away from it, and I'll be like, there's some parts that are wrong. I did characterize that character incorrectly. I pointed the story in a direction I don't want to, and I'll go back and edit afterwards. And I believe that both of those are inspired. I think that like for me, it's like, if I'm writing a scene and I don't feel excited about it, there's something wrong with the scene. Like for me, like that starts to ask the question, like, there's days when I'm tired, but like if I like am stuck on a scene, I'm stuck in a moment in the story, and I keep coming back to it and like not being enthusiastic about writing it, it's like I need to consider that, because if it's not fun to write, I just feel like it's not going to be fun to read. So it's a meticulous process, but we're figuring it out, piece by piece, and this draft that I'm putting together now feels very like cohesive in a way that is satisfying.
Yeah. I think something someone said to me one time was the first pass is important.
Yeah.
Or like not even just important, but just the thing. Like that's the. And I think of it more in terms of painting, but the first draft or first like the first go at a piece of writing, and like I don't know if it's even important, but sometimes I look back and I think it's got to be the first go, and I think in terms of like that as the document, like that's the piece where it's all perfect. It's just like writing it out for the first time.
Yeah,
and I'm like, I keep coming back to that idea.
Yeah.
And I bring it up just because it's like the it's something that I learned recently.
Yeah.
And so it's or I just started thinking about recently, and so I wanted to ask you, I guess, if you'd ever noticed some, that kind of approach, to writing.
Yeah, I'll speak to that in just a second. Don't pause for 1 second, just because it looks like. Are you heading out? Yeah, I mean, I definitely get that idea, and I think there's a lot of truth to it. I find that, like, the first draft is the inspired part. A lot of times, it's where the like that original like burst of creativity lies, and the more that we like refine it, sometimes it's hard to hold on to that. That rush of euphoria that I get when I like come up with an idea for a story that I feel like just like the basics and it feels great is an incredible feeling. And I do find that a lot of times if I'm like when I get into the weeds of really refining all of it, that I have to take a step back and be like, all right, I gotta try and get back to that place. I gotta try and step away from the nitty gritty and the planning and the details, and just try and return to that clear idea, that clear inspiration that I had at the beginning, right? Because at the end of the day, it's that's why I'm writing it, right? It's I had this inspiration and I want to capture that inspiration. And if I look at what I've made and it doesn't have that in it, then I mean, what's the point, right? It might be functional, but it's about the feeling. So
right,
I definitely that's what I'm doing recently, going back to a character dynamic that when I first came up with the story, this character dynamic that I created between these two characters was for me a big moment of inspiration, where I was this is part of why I want to make the story, and now that I've gotten to where I'm writing them together, I'm I need to step away from the nitty gritty of how do I include all these, get all these plot elements into here, and how do I make sure that I set up this dynamic correctly from a technical perspective, and just get back to the feeling of it, of I want to feel that inspiration when I'm writing these scenes, because if I don't, it's not going to be in there, right? There's a difference between writing it when I am thinking about what's supposed to, what I need to do to get to the next part of the story, or how to advance the character dynamics, or individually, independently, and also the dynamic between them. That's great. I need to consider that, but I need to feel it too. And so I've been really trying to step back and be okay, let's scrap some of this and just write some from the perspective of what was the original point?
The point is that feeling that you had at the beginning.
Yeah.
But to me, it sounds like you're trying to recreate that feeling for your reader.
Yeah.
And would you say you do that? So it requires a lot of planning to create, to work out the puzzle of how do I create the scenario and the story that surrounds it, that in which you feel that as a reader.
Exactly. I want to get the reader to feel it, and I also am a believer that while that inspiration is what I'm basing this off of, I think that any good ideas have to change and evolve to move forward and have the same weight. And it's basically I had a, if we're talking about painting, which is something that you do a lot, you know a lot more about, right? When I've come up with a draft for a story, it's I'm just putting the colors on the page, right? Just big blotches of colors. I have an idea for what it's supposed to be, and you can kind of see it, but it's just blotches of colors in my mind. And my mind can see the feeling behind it really clearly, right? And I'm oh, I can't wait to get this to come into focus. But if you get it to come into focus and you're just trying to kind of follow the map to get there, it's not gonna end up right? Part of the process of refining that, to me, is figuring out what can I make better here? What details was I missing from that? What details don't fit into that original outline in my head, that original burst of inspiration, but that build on it in ways that improve it. And when I feel I'm on fire when I'm writing is when as I'm writing, I'm having more ideas and they're clicking, it's being added onto what I've already got. It's making sense. I have to change things a lot of times, but I feel I'm that makes it even better, and that's growing this side of the story, and I didn't think about what I could do with this character, but I can do that, or here's an entirely new feeling that I didn't even really consider in my initial draft. A lot of times I'm looking for in the one I'm writing now, I'm like, oh, I have some real opportunities for like some moments of like fear and horror in here that I didn't really consider when I was like coming up with this kind of outline in my mind, right? Because it was just so bare bones, and it was very much about like the fun and thrill of adventure and chaos of the adventure, and I was like, oh, but like this horror like really fits in here nicely, and also like adds some really like good texture to the story if I have these elements in it. And so I don't know. It's complicated. It's really hard to like hold all those like. It just feels like there's thousands of moving pieces, and that one of the big like the most exciting parts of writing for me is when I get to the end of a draft that I feel like confident enough in that I can show it to people, because a lot of times like when I'm trying to balance all these pieces, it can be really hard to like understand what someone who's reading this fresh is going to take away from it,
Right.
And like getting that fresh perspective of just like, here's what I feel and think when I'm reading this, like is so cool to me, because then I'm like, okay, I actually get a snapshot of where we're at, because it's really hard for me sometimes to tell like to what is this, what is it, what even is this at this point, like I've got a million pieces but like every time that I talk about this, there's always something where I'm like, oh, like I forgot to focus on that part of the story enough, or like, am I falling into this cliche? Just like little thoughts that cross my mind, and they're all different, like related to different things. Some of them are about like the theme of the story. Some of them are about character development. Some of it's about balancing characters. Some of it's about having enough narrative hooks. Some of it's about focusing enough attention on plot details that are supposed to be important.
Do you tend to try to work out as much as you can, or do you see those critical voices, let's say, as do they impede the process in any sense, in that like it's like overthinking, or is it like maybe I'm speaking a little bit from my own experience, which is I respect the critical view, but it's just another element within sort of the current of popular media. It's like I was making a little song, and I was editing it, and I was creating this kind of soundscape behind it that added something I thought to the overall song.
Yep.
And then I saw an article on the internet that was like, exactly, it was like soundscape artists, musicians who rely on soundscape, in their songs. And it was like right there. It was like, it's like, yeah, I could believe that this critical voice is, I could see that, and immediately I felt like, oh God, that's exactly, it's like, but at the same time, it's like, who cares,
Yeah.
I think there's like a big element for me is like, you have to not care, and that's obvious. Like you have to not care what other people think.
Yeah.
But at the same time, there is this like, especially when you want to share with people, and there's this yearning for people to accept what you've written, for sure.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But I think beyond that, I think it's you want them to connect with what you're saying.
Yeah.
And that feeling you want them to feel.
Yeah.
So it is. It's obviously like, I think you have to yield, and you have to be aware and listen to those critical voices which are guiding you through. You're just like, what is the reader gonna think, in a way?
Yeah.
And what's my self-expression? But it's a balance, I think,
it is, yeah,
in some way.
And I try to remember that, like, basically every story that I love, I can point to numerous flaws in it, like, it's just like, or things that I would have done differently, That's true for things that I adore, right? Like books that I am infatuated with, there's still parts of them where I'm like, oh, what's that about, you know? Like, you know, I reference House of Castle because House of Castle, like, was very formative for me as a reader, and also, like, you know, something that I find, first of all, I was inspired by a lot in writing, but also that I see lots of other fantasy fiction taking from. Like, it was just a very inspired book. And there's an entire segment in House of Castle, and this isn't like a spoiler, like, this is not major spoilers for the story, I promise anyone who's listening, the overall story. But there's a part where they're in this, you know, this fantasy world, right? And then they just go to real world Wales. And it's not relevant, really. It's just like one of their, like, fun adventures, and, like, I was like, that's so obnoxious. Like, you just kind of broke the immersion and turned it into, like, you know, this thing that's connected to, like, our world, and it makes it feel cheesier, and it makes it feel like everything that you had that was so, like, neat and self-contained, like, in the story, that felt like it had no boundaries, right? You placed this boundary on it of, like, this is like now we know it's a parallel world to, like, ours, and it's connected, and the walk between them. I would absolutely scrap it. I think it's terrible. But at the same time, like, I don't really care. It really impede me from loving it, right? And I feel like that's going to be the case for, like, anyone who's read anything that I have, right? Even if they love it, they're going to be able to point to things that, like, they don't like about it, right? And so I'm fine with that, right? Like, what bothers me is more when I am, like, watching or reading something and I go, oh, I hate that this story did, like, X thing, right? And then I will reflect on what I'm writing, and I'll be like, wait, did I do that thing, you know? Like, it happened yesterday. I was watching a show, and I was like, it was actually the opposite. I was watching the new Percy Jackson adaptation, and my brother and I were talking about how we noticed that the main character, Percy Jackson himself, had been, like, changed in the adaptation to be much more proactive at the beginning of the story. It's like, from the get-go, he's much more like, he's taking actions based on what, like, he is trying to do and what he wants, as opposed to kind of being like a passive bystander that kind of goes with the flow for a while until he kind of finds his feet. And we were both like, yeah, like, you know, I feel like that, you know, that's a great change, because, you know, even though a lot of people can relate to someone who's go with the flow and passive and reactionary, it's not always a very compelling main character to follow, right? And then I had this somewhere I was like, oh my god, like, is my character proactive? And I was like, my character is not really proactive at the beginning of the story either. Like, I kind of goes the same arc. And my brother actually made the point of, like, well, it depends on medium too, right? Like, in a book, when you get the characters' inner thoughts, like, you can get a lot of, like, interesting details about them from how they're thinking and responding to things, as opposed to in a show of it's something that's like where you don't get a medium where you don't get the internal dialogue of a character. You're not going to. Basically, if they're not a proactive person, they're just not really going to do much, and you're not going to really know much about them at all, right? Like, because you know, in a story that's visual, what people do defines who they are. If they're not doing anything, it's really hard to define them, right? And understand or invest in them. And I was like, that's totally fair, right? Like, proactive protagonists are much more important in something where you don't have an internal monologue, right? Lots of stories have very passive characters with great internal monologues. Great Gatsby, right? Like, entire thing is narrated by someone who kind of watches events unfold, but has a distinctive interpretation of all these events that gives that person a lot of character anyways, right? But that kind of moment where I'm like, if I'm criticizing something, or if I find something that, like, is in my story that I don't like, that really bothers me, then I'll kind of have a freak out moment, because I'm like, oh crap, like, I just wasn't paying attention to that, right? And whether it be something like, oh, the main character has, like, too many, like, important events revolving around them, which I really, like, I don't like when that happens, right? The world doesn't feel broad enough. There aren't enough, like, narrative hooks or questions. The ending is an afterthought, right? Like, is something that, like, you know, I'm always kind of like I love a good, you know, if you're in a trilogy, right, like, I think that, like, I basically, like, in trilogies, the second installment in the trilogy is often the weakest. And I was very much, like, conscious of that when I was playing the story. But then I reached a point where I was just like, is the third book thing is the ending good? Because like I put so much into the second one. Like, am I repeating myself too much? Because I hate when stories like just reiterate the same thing again and again. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. It's complicated for sure, but I think that like at the end of the day, to summarize all of that wandering tangential talking into a simplistic set of points, I think that you're absolutely right that it doesn't really matter what people think about your writing or your art or your music, because you're just always going to have anything that you make, people can find something that they don't like or that they feel like you've done better in. I think that where it becomes relevant is where you find something in what you've made that you specifically don't like, in which case like that can be the sense of like, I need to change that. And it's especially frustrating when like you have gone through a ton of like effort in creating something already and then notice it too late because you just have a blind spot, you know?
You become blind to it because you at least I obsess over things and I re-listen, reread, you know, and that makes you kind of, it's like you know, something smells in a room, you know, you can't stop smelling when you stop smelling it. I stopped smelling my own bad, you know, writing, but I think that's why it's so important to. That's why we yearn to share what we've done, because it's like, well, what do you think? And maybe you can bring it back to life for me, you know.
Yes.
So I can get, you know.
People find things in stories that authors don't intend 90% of the time, you know. Like I see I constantly people are like have all sorts of like takes on interpretations of books that you know, most of the time are just not something that would put there on purpose, you know. They get an emotional fulfillment out of a character arc that was not even the intended emotional like arc of that character, right? It's just something that was what they found in it, and that is really rejuvenating, right? It makes it feel like what you've created is dynamic and important, you know, and it makes it feel like you can see it again from a perspective that isn't that like I'm blind to this now because I just, you know, exist within it, you know.
And you want people to say it's good.
Yeah, I mean, there's obviously like an urge to have people say it's good, but you know, this is good. At the end of the day, like there's only so much to that. Like I think that for me, it's like I want someone to be able to tell me like what it is they like about it, you know, like, and I want it to be like something that breathes life into me for me again, you know. I don't know. For me, it's really like if I can bring characters to life, if I can get people that like, you know, feel like my characters that I've created are distinct and important to them and feel separate from me, then it feels like I've created something that's living, you know, and that's really at the end of the day what's important. But it is tough, and I say this without actually ever having published anything and therefore having no experience with this whatsoever, but it is, you know, inevitable. I have shared finished books with people to test read, and I find that that's always just a great experience, even though I've had them ripped apart, you know. Yeah, like I had a friend read one of my books and just be like, your main character sucks, and I was like, I didn't even consider that. Like I didn't consider like how just much this character is a vehicle for the story, you know, and that was a really helpful learning experience. I'm excited to do the same with this one.
So what jealous eye, your story left a long envious wrinkle, waspy false tracer, magic waster in such a finite form, your drug. The
begins and ends with this. It comes in a capsule. While the world goes on forever, so does time. I don't forget that ancient rhyme. Temporal alumni speak in jumping ceremonies. Lifting to the cloudscape looks so